Good Monday to you, Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Glad you're making us a part of your day. Just a wild weekend of college football. We'll chat with Brooks Austin of Dogs Daily on SI.com coming up here in hour number one. Looking at Georgia domination yet again. Also, D. Orlando Ledbetter, AJC.com will join us. Falcons, well, not domination yet again for the ATL. And then we'll look at Jake Roots joining us, Dogs HQ on 3. Joining us here in the final hour of the program. We'll look at Georgia, obviously, Georgia and Auburn coming up this weekend in SEC play. But, Ben, what a wild weekend in college football. I mean, you really could say wild weekend in just the SEC because a lot of crazy stuff happened. But Stanford tying Oregon on an untimed down at the end of the game and then wins in overtime. Cincinnati beating Notre Dame. I don't mean winning. They beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Auburn beats LSU in Death Valley for the first time in 20-some-odd years. Kentucky beats Florida at home in Lexington for the first time in forever. We talked last week. I think was it Craig East? I'm trying to think who it was. Joined us last week. They never win at home against Florida. Finally got it done. And just things are up topsy-turvy underneath Georgia and Alabama. But let's start there, Ben. I know not one you wanted to see, but Kentucky beats Florida. Not necessarily news because people thought Kentucky was better this year. Florida thought was good, but not something that I think was just unheard of happening. But Florida beat them in every aspect of the game except the scoreboard. Something to be said for that if you're Kentucky of just finding a way to win, even when you do not play well against a team like Florida.
Yeah, Florida. I mean, Kentucky just made more plays when it mattered. I mean, you mentioned Florida were outgained Kentucky 382 yards or 224 yards, won the time of possession by almost 13 minutes. But 15 penalties for 115 yards, Kevin, going to be a big reason why a team stays into a game. The defense, which played incredible again for Florida, got to find a way to tackle better. An open field tackle on those screens. And I always say special teams touchdowns usually benefits one team and hurts another. A blocked field goal for a touchdown is something that's hard to overcome. But the biggest head scratcher coming out of that game was time management. You had 3 timeouts with the ball in your hand going before halftime in Florida. You didn't use none of the timeouts. You walked away with no points. So you asked yourself, why is that the case? Anthony Richardson was he was at the game. They kept showing him. It's like Tom Brady and freaking Bill Belichick. They kept showing him. Young man didn't enter the game, though. And, a lot of these games do be head scratchers. You got to ask yourself one thing about Dan Mullen. Is he a good coach, not a great coach? Because he's good enough to, go to 3 straight New Year's Six Bowls, go back-to-back New Year's Six Bowls wins with an Orange Bowl and a Sugar Bowl. A Peach Bowl and an Orange Bowl to start off his career. But hasn't done well against top 10 teams. Won SEC East. Played Alabama well both times. They played them both in the regular season this year and the SEC Championship last year. But when you lose to a team like Kentucky, who did not throw the football well, who did not have a good game on offense, and it is a head scratcher, Kevin. But you start asking yourself, Dan Mullen is the solution, but he could also be the problem when you're looking at the fact that you got a guy, Anthony Richardson, on the sideline who definitely could provide a spark for the entire team, not just the offense. But you give a lot of credit to this Kentucky team. They're always going to be considered a basketball school, always scratching and clawing for every single thing they get, but they play 5 teams. They beat all 5. And dare I say, right now, Kentucky is ranked in the top 10 and 5-0, and they're doing it in an impressive fashion. So I'm not going to come on here and make excuses for Florida. Look, they lost the game. And if you Dan Mullen, you start saying to yourself, if you're not the greatest recruiter, if you're great at developing talent, but you ain't putting the best players on the field in crunch time, you got to start asking yourself, man, like, what is really going on? But hey, congrats to those Wildcats, man, because if you are a Kentucky Wildcat, you get sick of hearing about not being able to beat Florida. And that game on Saturday night, Kevin, kind of goes back to when I played in Florida with Kentucky. It's not like they don't be in games. Florida usually just finds a way to win them. Well, that wasn't the case. And dare I say now, Florida's got a tough uphill battle ahead of them with teams like, LSU and Georgia coming down the pike. But, hey, man, for one night with the Kentucky faithful, they was having themselves a day, man. Those fans, they might still be celebrating right now.
Yeah, and again, a big win there, as you said, for Kentucky, who now, given the way things have transpired, kind of looks like the number 2 team in the East right now, behind Georgia. We'll get to Georgia and Alabama, who just continue to dominate, coming up in just a little bit. But Auburn, where are we at here with Auburn? They go into the Death Valley, they beat LSU, beat them at night, get the win, and a lot of people are saying, okay, maybe Auburn is legitimate. Maybe Auburn is better than maybe some people thought. They got off to a hot start and said, they played some teams they were supposed to beat. Lost to Penn State, but played in a valiant effort. Then they said, okay, now the meat of the SEC schedule is going to start to come. Got a big one there over LSU this past weekend.
Give Bo Nix a lot of credit. Played really, really well this weekend. And I know Kevin coming off a benching the week before, people saying, what kind of Bo Nix are we going to see? I mean, I don't know what it is by late game heroics for Bo Nix. 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter on the road in Death Valley, which is still a very, very hard place to go in and win. And give a lot of credit to Bo Nix. I mean, he's an up and down player. I mean, he's consistent at being inconsistent, but when he is at his best, I don't know if there's anybody better, especially with those late game heroics. But I think Auburn and LSU find themselves in a similar boat. I mean, Auburn having a brand new coach and LSU with Coach O, not really understanding what type of they kind of go through those ebbs and flows. But give Auburn a lot of credit. Everybody knew that Alabama was going to be the creme de la creme in the West. Who was going to be that number 2 team? Well, Texas A&M has lost back-to-back weeks. Arkansas and Mississippi State with Jimbo Fisher talking trash. Ole Miss, I mean, I think all that hype, every piece of win has been taken out of their cell because of what happened against Alabama. LSU, people thought that maybe 2020 was just an anomaly because they lost all the players, Kevin, to the draft. And here's Auburn, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. And while they played well enough against Penn State, had an off week last week, finally, found a way to get a big win at LSU, which haven't happened, I don't think, in a decade. For them Auburn Tigers. So the Tigers definitely won. It just wasn't the Tigers most people thought would win. Happened to be those boys from Auburn. So shout out to Bo Nix, man, for finding a way to get it done in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, unbelievable ball game there. And then, as you mentioned in that last statement, there have been Texas A&M losing to Mississippi State. Mississippi State ran the ball for 30 yards. 30 yards, threw for over 400. Their quarterback threw 59 times against Texas A&M. I know it's the air raid of Mike Leach, but you say, hey, Mississippi State throws the ball 59 times. That could be a problem. No, it wasn't. 46 of 59, and they pull off a big upset of Texas A&M, who, as you said, is now staring directly down the face of 3 losses in a row because they've got Alabama this weekend, and it certainly doesn't look good if you're Texas A&M right now.
Jimbo Fisher, wow. I think he got a contract extension in the offseason. Writing a lot of checks to old St. Nick coming out of Tuscaloosa, talking about we're gonna kick that what. But I don't know. Haynes King goes down for Texas A&M, haven't been the same team. They had an explosive offense. I mean, they could definitely run the football and throw the football. Defense hasn't been playing as good as they have in the past. Mississippi State, Kevin, they're going to win and lose their way. If Mississippi State wins, it's because they was able to throw the football, and if they lose, it's because they threw the football too much. But Mike Leach is saying, look, man, I was here to bring the air raid. Win, lose, or draw, that's what I'm going to do. And it's hard when you going into a game knowing that we got to stop the pass. They could not stop it. I mean, I don't know what Will Rogers' usage rate is, but if he was a pitcher, I mean, his pitch count is different. Hey, man, we're going to let you get, 70 throws this game. We're going to try to let you get 70 throws. If we don't make it to 70, we will, make up for it the week after. But no, I give Mississippi State a lot of credit, Kevin, because once again, Mississippi State is trying to be one of those teams that get to 6 wins every year. Nobody's expecting them to compete for the West, win the West. But can they scare teams? Yep. Texas A&M is supposed to be a better team in the SEC this year. Well, that was preseason. Then the regular season comes, you got to start actually playing football, and then the real Texas A&M is showing up. Back-to-back weeks, Arkansas last week, Mississippi State this week. Texas A&M, they probably out of it as far as like winning the West, because Alabama, if they do lose, they're not going to lose again. And I thought that Ole Miss would give them more of a fight. But yeah, the curious case of Texas A&M and the curious case of Jimbo Fisher will continue to be a head scratcher. But for another week, Mike Leach and Will Rogers in that air raid finds a way to make himself get a big dub in the SEC West.
Oh, yeah. And again, give a lot of credit there to Mike Leach and company for going out and getting a win over what many thought might have been the third best team. I mean, remember, Texas A&M preseason number 5-6 in the country, outside looking in at a playoff spot. And people said, hey, it could come down to how they play against Alabama to get them in. 2 losses, looking at 3 already. Well, they're not going anywhere anytime soon as well. So you look around the SEC. One more to talk about before we get to been the two dominating wins over the weekend. Cincinnati. I know we're not talking about it. Cincinnati going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's looked shaky at times here. Struggled to put Florida State away, who was obviously not a good football team. Just got their first win over the weekend. Struggled the week after Florida State. Got a win in the last couple minutes. And now lost to Cincinnati. A good team, but lost soundly to Cincinnati. And first thing I hear from the Monday morning talking heads, the SEC is going to have two teams in the playoffs. Big Ten could have two teams in the playoffs, and that's it. And you're going, didn't Cincinnati just beat one of the supposed top handful of teams in the country out there and beat them pretty nicely as well? So I think you're already seeing the system starting to work against Cincinnati, but they put themselves in a position to at least be in the discussion if they continue to win out.
Desmond Ridder in that offense for Cincinnati is very, very impressive right now. Coming off of, look, it kind of goes back to the Peach Bowl last year against Georgia. If Georgia's kicker don't got like a freaking cannon in his leg, that game probably goes another way. But Desmond Ridder is one of those quarterbacks, Kevin, that was talked about preseason. He might not be in the same realm of a Spencer Rattler or Sam Howell, with those guys, but he's tier 2, and he's definitely has first round grade written all over him. And when you do it, the manner in which they did it, because when you look at Cincinnati's schedule, they running the gauntlet. They got some big time games. With this one was supposed to be in the biggest one. They handled Notre Dame. I know Coach Kelly, he might be the all-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history. He didn't add to that win total on Saturday. So give them Cincinnati Bearcats a lot of credit with they got two bookend corners. They got an incredible defense. They got a young man at DM, from my neck of the woods, from Camden County, who might find himself, being a first or second round pick. But Desmond Ridder, remember the name, quarterback for the Cincinnati Bearcats. The young man is a dual threat with a big arm. And go back to, if you want to get proof, go back to the Peach Bowl last year, when he played against Georgia. But yes, Kevin, Cincinnati, I think they got something to say about having two from the Big Ten and two from the SEC. Don't count your chickens just yet.
Yeah, just a wild weekend of college football. What wasn't wild were the supposed two biggest matchups of the weekend in the SEC. Georgia, Arkansas, dud from the beginning, and Bama, Ole Miss, dud from the beginning. Those games were exciting for about 5 minutes if you were a nonpartisan fan just watching college football. They were over as soon as they got started, and the top two teams in the country continue to dominate. We'll break it down when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We'll chat with Brooks Austin of Dogs Daily on SI coming up in just a little bit after a dominating performance this weekend. And Ben, there's no doubt who the top 2 teams in the league are, and probably the top 2 teams in the country right now is Georgia just all over Arkansas in a game that was not even really all that close. Christian saying, hey, Arkansas is the official team of 3 and Out because that's all they did on Saturday. It was pretty close. 7 out of 10 drives, 3 and out, kicked the football back to Georgia. Not ever really a ball game. And we had a question last week, who's going to be in a different spot 4 weeks from now? I said Arkansas the other way. After they're done, I think that's kind of the start of the slide because they still got to play Bama. They still got some tough games out there. I don't think they're going to keep it up. I don't believe Arkansas is going to remain a top 10 team in the country like they were stated coming into last week, much like I think Kentucky, who's going to be in the top 10, probably not going to stay there very long either due to the schedule. But Georgia, again, with defensive prowess, wins the day. Offensively, Stetson Bennett completed 7 passes. They threw 11 and didn't really have to do much there. Didn't really have to do much offensively because the game was out of hand so quickly.
Yeah, and Georgia, that defense, I mean, about as impressive as I've seen in a long time. And obviously I had the pleasure of playing against that Georgia, defense back in the day. They seem to only get better year in and year out, under Kirby Smart. But, I mean, Kevin, I think you said it. I mean, JT Daniels came out, saw that, kind of felt was it hot or cold? What am I going to wear? Am I going to wear a T-shirt or am I going to wear a long sleeve? Go back in and say, I think we got it. Because the thing is, we're not giving – I don't think we're giving this Georgia defense enough credit. I mean, you know how hard it is to keep a team out of the end zone when they can kick field goals? You know how hard it is to keep a team out of the end zone for 4 quarters? And the way in which they do it. I mean, that front 7 is about as good as it gets. I mean, Traylon Burke, he wasn't even a factor all day long. KJ Jefferson was like, what is going on? Sam Pittman, yeah, I know you've seen Coach Lanning in that defense when you was at Georgia, but it's like Nick Saban when you leave. Just because you know my tendencies don't mean you know all of them. And it's one thing to go up against me every day to get better. It's another thing to try to move the ball against me to win a game. So, yes, Georgia is about as good as it gets. And when you look at the offensive, identity, Kevin, it's working. Look, we're going to run the football by committee. We're going to throw the football if we have to. And we're going to move the chains. We're going to get plenty of opportunity because that opposing offense is not going to move the ball. The opposing offense won't even get more than 3 downs to be on the field, which means we're going to get a chance to work on our offense. And Stetson Bennett, I will say this. People are going to say, oh, he didn't have to do much. What if he didn't have it? What if he didn't have a Stetson Bennett to be able to go in there and fill in for a JT Daniels and know I got the full slate of the entire offense and I know the thing top to bottom. So, yeah, Georgia once again put on a defensive clinic. That is a clinic. All phases of the game, 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down. It wasn't no 2nd and long, 3rd and long. They finna get off the field. So, yeah, Georgia, Kevin, is about as good as I've seen them in a while. Right now, I have no problems with the offense because it's working based off the teams they're playing. But if they do meet a team with an offense that can move the ball and dare I say Georgia finds themselves in a hole, is that offense built to get them out of the hole? But as long as the defense playing like that, it's like the old adage of football. The other team can't score, they can't beat you. As long as you don't beat yourself. Georgia look like the clear number 2 team and number 1 team in certain people's eyes, depending on who you asking. But yeah, Georgia, it was ugly from the opening kickoff.
Yeah, I was going to say, you look at the way Georgia played, and that was going to be a big test. College game day was there. It wasn't a test. Alabama, Ole Miss. Oh, Lane Kiffin's coming back to play, Nick Saban is the prodigy and all this kind of stuff. And Ole Miss might actually be able to put together an offensive game plan. They didn't even score till it was already way too late. 35-0 at one point, 42-7 in the 4th quarter. That one never close, never interesting, never had a chance to have an upset written all over it. It was more Alabama, more of the same, dominating. Brian Robinson, 171 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns. The end. Game over.
Kevin, when we start breaking down, how well a Georgia or Alabama plays, right? What scares you about them is how similar they look. Like Georgia may have a better defense than Alabama. Alabama definitely has a better offense than Georgia, but they are clear-cut the 2 best teams in college football, and they on a crash course in Atlanta. Now, the thing about Nick Saban that he don't get enough credit for is when I have a full year to know what you do and don't do. Like this thing, Okay, they obviously, unless something catastrophic happens or Nick Saban say, I don't want to go to Atlanta this year, I'm gonna let Auburn go. I don't really want to go. It comes down to it's a game of strategy. It's a game, it's a game of being able to, win these matchups. Georgia, thus far, has not been tested. When people go, Alabama gave up 21 points. Did they? That game was over with. Like it's 42 or whatever, 41-7 in the fourth. That game is over. That was just a save face. That's what people who watch the box score and don't watch the game. But I will say this, Kevin. I mean, when you think about these two teams and what they do well, they do not beat themselves. They just don't. And you said a minute. I just threw the ball 11 times. I completed 7 of them. I really didn't have to do that. We just did that because we got a bunch of receivers. But yeah, Kevin, for another weekend, the class of the SEC is still Alabama. But that team that Kirby Smart wants to be that guy to not just beat Alabama, but win it, bring another national championship to Athens, which that's a tall task when you look at looking that far down the road. But for another weekend, Kevin, if you still got to play Georgia, good luck. And if this was a year to beat Alabama, yeah, you notice that narrative is going away as well. Ain't nobody really saying that no more right now.
Yeah, you got Georgia Auburn this weekend coming up. Alabama Texas A&M. So again, what we thought were going to be two just really good matchups. Georgia Auburn might be, but this Georgia team looks like they're not going to let anybody do anything on them defensively. I don't know how interesting that one's going to be at Texas A&M after 2 losses in a row. I think the bloom is off that rose, at least in a big game matchup against Alabama. But, Lane Kiffin, I heard a lot of people question him on the 4th down calls. The only thing I'll say is look, I understand the train of thought. It's Alabama, especially early. They were down there inside I think the 10 or the 5 and had a 4th and goal, and they went for it and got stuffed. And at the time when I saw it, I was like, you know what? I know you want to be aggressive, but I think just for some positive vibes, you take the points while you're down there, right? Early in the game, even if it's 3, hey, we scored, fine. It might have still been 35-3 at some point, but you take the points while you can get them. And I think Lane, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, said, look, this is Alabama. I was here. I coached here. I've watched Alabama play people for years. You can't kick field goals and expect to beat Alabama. I'm going for touchdowns early to try to keep the pressure on them. And it didn't work. And there's a couple different ways to look at it, Ben. I don't know how you kind of look at it, but I understand as much heat as he's getting for not taking points, looking at the situation saying, look, it's Alabama. We need to be in the end zone if we're right here. We need to try to get there. And it didn't work. You got stuffed big time. But I understand the line of thinking there by Lane Kiffin.
I understand as well, Kevin. I mean, he's being aggressive, right? But you're going up against a team that understands situations. Like, the best teams in football, they're better at situational football. Like, they understand, like, okay, Lane, like, we're ready. Like, they say that practice in Alabama is harder than the game. You put so much pressure on, like, they say, oh, man, all right, it's 1st and goal on the 2-yard going in. You guys got to keep them out of the end zone. That's how Alabama practices. And they're going up against an offense that's led by, you know what I'm saying? Young and those guys, and then you add Brian Robinson, those guys, and all Americans all across the offensive line. So if you are Alabama, you're thinking, look, once again, this is the blueprint for us. We never said we can't be beat. We never said you can't move the ball on us. But if you make a mistake, we are going to capitalize. And that's the thing is, hey, man, trying to fit the ball in when it's the first quarter, I get it. But if it's a pick or if it's turnover on down, that turns into points. So, like you said, Kevin, that's a 4-point swing. If I don't get the touchdown, at least I could have kicked the field goal. Now you get 0. Okay, now we got nothing from it. And how many opportunities are we going to have when our offense is this far in the Alabama territory? So I do understand the strategy. But the thing about Alabama is, what about halftime adjustments? What about when they go up by 14? Not if. When they go. So then, because Alabama game plan is, man, once we go up by 14, 21, it might as well be 100. We're not going to let you back in the game. We're going to bludgeon you. We're going to force you to make hard throws. We're going to force you to do things you don't do well. And if you can do them, you better, the last name better be Manziel or Tebow, or Kelly, because these are the only people, or Burrow. Look, or Trevor or Lawrence. Look at the guys that's beat them. All-time great quarterbacks have beat Alabama. Not quarterback. Well, Bo Nix ain't an all-time great, so let me not say that. But hey, man, it's Alabama. It's a strategy. It's a situation of football. It's what they do. And outside of a team and athletes, I don't see nobody that could even, stay on the field with it.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think they're on a crash course right now. And again, college football is week to week, but somebody's going to have a heck of a week if they're going to beat either one of these teams in the regular season. We'll come back. Brooks Austin set to join us from Dogs Daily on SI. We'll look at Georgia, their just dominating win over Arkansas, and look ahead to Auburn this week. Not used to having it so early in the season, but here it is, Georgia and Auburn this week. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Georgia absolutely dominating yet again. If I can do my simple math in my head, that would be 99-0 the last 2 weeks against SEC opponents for Georgia, and they just eviscerated Arkansas there in Athens. Auburn coming up this weekend in Auburn, Alabama. Joining us as he does every Monday from Dogs Daily on SI.com. Brooks Austin joins us. Brooks, another weekend, more domination from that Georgia defense.
Yeah, good Lord. I mean, we expected Arkansas to move the ball just a little bit, but they struggled from opening kick. I mean, literally, before they even got a snap off, they had 2 false start penalties. I think crowd noise had a lot to do with it. This is Arkansas's first real away game. You know, they got Texas at home, and then they had Texas A&M on a neutral site there in Jerry's World, which might as well have been a somewhat of a home game for Arkansas, considering where Jerry Jones went to college. So, first real away game, away environment for them, and it was in one of the most hostile noon kicks you'll ever find in college football. It was absolutely absurd Saturday. So Kirby said today he thought the crowd noise accounted for 10 points. I think you could have given Arkansas about 7 or 8 quarters, and they probably wouldn't have scored a point. It looked like on Saturday. It was utter domination. This was something I kind of talked about in our film studies leading up to it. You know, since Kirby's been at Georgia, and I consider Arkansas a quote unquote gimmicky offense. They're very heavy reliant on misdirection, a lot of pulling guards, a lot of motion, a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of trick plays from Kendall Briles as well. Those types of offenses have like zero historical success against Kirby Smart. They just don't score. He dominated Gus Malzahn for a long time. You know, Malzahn would have a game here now and then against Georgia. Kendall Briles is kind of cut from the same cloth, offensive coordinating wise, and it was utter domination. Their eyes were right all day long. They rallied to the football, and then once they made him one dimensional, once they made him rely on the passing game, at that point it was really over with. At that point, so Georgia could really pin their ears back and get after the quarterback too. So yeah, it was domination from opening kick to final whistle.
Brooks, I mean, when you think about, obviously that defense is about as good as I've ever seen, and obviously I've seen a lot of Georgia defensive football. Coach Lanning and what he's doing, like the manner in which he's doing. Every year, you know, you're going to have the hot shot offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Coach Lanning is kind of in the lane by himself right now because, and we talked about it last segment, it doesn't matter the team. It's hard to keep a team off the scoreboard. I don't care who it is, but the fact that you've done it in back-to-back weeks against pretty good competition, regardless if you're the better team. Talk about Coach Lanning, man, and how in the world, you know, is Georgia going to keep him in Athens years to come?
I mean, they struggled to do so last year. They had to give him a pretty substantial raise this offseason just to keep him from taking that Texas defensive coordinator job, because Sark came calling and was throwing quite the price tag at Lanning. So, you know, I've always compared him to a young Kirby Smart in the sense that he just strikes me as a guy that's going to wait this one out. I mean, he's going to wait until that job opportunity opens for him to be a head coach. He's not going to be taking lateral moves for pay raises. I mean, we saw this last offseason. He'll just demand a pay raise at Georgia and he'll get it. So I don't see him taking any lateral moves to become a defensive coordinator anywhere. I also don't see him going and taking like a mid-major job to become a head coach and trying it out there. I think he waits it out, allows the demand for his services as a head coach to really grow, and then have that right opportunity, right? At like Kirby Smart did for, you know, coming to Georgia and things like that. So I think you see Dan kind of waited out. I mean, he did have an opportunity to probably get his name in the hat for that Kansas job, become a head coaching job, head coach there, but a terrible situation in the sense that they fire Les Miles, a month before the season, a month and a half before the season. That's not the job, right? That's not the right opportunity to be leaping off of this Georgia bandwagon when you're, heading into the season thinking you got a shot at a national title. And here we are 5 weeks in, and you definitely got a shot at a national title. As far as what he's doing schematically, it's hard for me to tell. They're so daggum complex, Ben. They do a lot of funky stuff in coverages and blitzes, in stunts and schemes, and what they do in the run game as well. I think the most important thing when I watch Dan, and I think it's what's going to make him a really good head coach when he becomes a head coach, is he's got like 45 guys in this defense that have completely bought in. They're comfortable not playing a bunch of reps. They're comfortable with Nakobe Dean only taking 70% of the snaps, even though he's one of the nation's best linebackers. And in every other program, that guy doesn't leave the field. But yet they're all happy, right? Channing Tindall, as happy as can be, finally getting his opportunity as a senior. That's the most important thing to me. I see a guy that we know he can recruit. He's recruited the outside linebacker position specifically really, really well since he's been there. But he's getting buy-in from a lot of guys. And that's really tough to do in a college football day and age where, I can just hit the portal and play next season wherever I go. So that's been the most impressive thing for me, for Dan Lanning and this defensive staff.
Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com, joining us. Brooks, what can you tell us there about JT Daniels? I know came out for warm-ups, left. Stetson Bennett gets to start. I mean, didn't really have to do anything. I think he threw it just 11 times, but Georgia with 5 games, and at least in what, by my count, 3 of them, JT Daniels has either not played or not played a significant amount of time. Is that concerning that whatever is bothering him is just becoming a lingering thing at this point?
So I was kind of concerned, or not kind of concerned. I was very concerned when I heard the word oblique in general. When I heard oblique at first, and now it's, turned into a lat issue. When I heard oblique from the very beginning, if you've ever, dealt with anybody that's ever had this injury, I know you guys follow the Braves really, really closely. That oblique and lat injury, that type of body injury, is a baseball specific, almost always injury. Guys that are throwing the ball all the time, those things are very, very finicky. They could be 3 to 4 weeks. They could be 7 to 8 weeks. It's very touch and go. It's an inflammation injury is the way I look at it. You never know when it's going to spark up. You never know when it's going to fire up. You never know when you're going to be healthy, when you're going to be, good to go. It's just a time. We made a joke today in our Discord over there that's connected to our Patreon service about how they should need to put that joker on bed rest. Just let him just chill and just let it get healed and come back whenever he wants or whenever he can, because what they did last week was they gave him Monday and Tuesday off. They tried to get him in there Wednesday. He threw a little bit, felt okay, threw fine Thursday, got a lot of the reps Thursday, was ripping it around. And then Friday he wakes up and he's in, drastic amounts of pain. And then Saturday it was even worse. So whatever he did Thursday, whether it was just throwing the football, it clearly inflamed that lat muscle. And it's a very touch and go injury. This isn't something that, you can just shoot up, right? You can just put cortisone in and be good to go. That's not how these things work when it comes to lat issues or muscle issues or oblique issues. So it's going to be touch and go for a while. And I don't know when they're going to get him back.
I mean, Brooks, I know I think I might ask you this every other week you come on, man. How blessed is Georgia to have, a guy in Stetson Bennett? Look, it's never going to be sexy enough for the onlooker. But when you think about college football now, isn't it, okay, if our starting quarterback goes down, do we still have our postseason aspirations? Georgia might be the only team in the nation that can say that, because Stetson Bennett played last year. Most backups, we obviously know is the most loved person on campus. How impressive is it to have a guy like Stetson that can always ready to step in?
I think it's very, very impressive, honestly. And, Stetson kind of mentioned after the game Saturday that he'd had some thoughts about leaving the program last year, because he wanted to get some reps and not necessarily just even one's reps, but two's reps, like Kirby said today in his press conference. So it's a testament to this culture at Georgia to be able to keep a guy like that around. But it's really a testament at 13. I mean, Kirby said it after the UAB game. Nobody's been better to the University of Georgia than Stetson Bennett. Now he did leave, right? He went the JUCO route after being a walk-on. After that 2017 season, spent 2018 at a JUCO, came back 2019, and here we are in 2021. And they're leaning on him, and they're going to continue to lean on him. But I think a lot of this, they got such a strong defense, Ben, that if they just put up 21 points, I mean, they really can do it. They could run the table, just making everything a rock fight. And if that's what it turns into, I think they feel really, really comfortable with it. I know Kirby spoke today about how confident he is in not just Stetson, but all of these guys. And I think that confidence stems directly from how historic this defense is, because they're legendary status already.
Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 and Out. You got Auburn this week and a road test. I know Georgia hasn't been but to one road game. That was Vanderbilt. I don't know if that counts as a hostile environment. Unnecessarily, you had a neutral site game to start, but you go to Auburn, Deep South's oldest rivalry, a lot of attrition, played at a weird time on the schedule. We don't normally see it this early in the year. We saw Bama go to Florida and at least struggle, pulled it out late. What do you think Georgia gets in kind of the first, as you said, true hostile road environment? Maybe with Stetson as your quarterback, who knows? But the first kind of hostile environment, 3:30 kick there with Auburn.
Dude, Auburn is like spooky land for Georgia fans. It is like crazy stuff happens there at Jordan-Hare at least once a year. I mean, at least once a year, historically, something crazy happens inside that stadium. I don't know if it's because they got the world's largest speakers in the end zone and they play a bunch of music. I don't know if it's all I do is win, win, win being played 12,000 times while you're there. I don't know what it is about Auburn. I don't know what it is about Jordan Hare, but that 16-point spread or whatever it is right now, it's going to go north of that. And I don't know, man. It's weird. Now, here's the deal. It's still Bo Nix. And like Kirby can sit there and say all the great things in the world about Bo Nix, but if you're just going to sit back there and run around like a chicken with your head cut off, that's not a recipe for success against this Georgia defense. It's not. Watch what happened to him 2 years ago when they went and played there at Auburn. I mean, he had a great second half, but they had a great second half because Georgia was still doing the Jake Fromm, the James Coley, the type of offense where we're up 21 points in the second half. We're just going to hand the ball off and punt after 4 downs of running the football. We're going to control the clock. We're going to lean on our defense. And, you know, Bo Nix had about 65 plays, it felt like, in that second half and finally got hot. He is a much better quarterback at home. Take out the Georgia State game. Historically, he is a much better quarterback at home, but man, I don't know how this is going to look against this Georgia defense. This Auburn offense probably is not going to put up too many points against what we're looking at from Georgia. They're just too good.
Georgia offense. I mean, I kept saying how they gonna spread the ball around. With what we've been seeing, Brooks has been working obviously because of that defense. But is it gonna be running back by committee? I mean, Cook 12 carries, Zamir White 16, McIntosh 10, Milton 12. With so much talk about these guys on the perimeter, when it's all said and done, Brooks, is it gonna be more of the same ground and pound with the Georgia offense?
I almost laughed today because Kirby said something along the lines of, we've got 6 healthy wide receivers and we play 3 receivers on every snap. So like they're still really, really banged up at the wide receiver position. And I think that's not only schematically, I mean, they're always a take what's given offense. I mean, even with Monken, right? You look back against Mississippi State and JT Daniels' first career start. Mississippi State was stacking the box, blitzing everybody, playing cover 1, and even sometimes cover 0 behind it. So they threw the heck out of the football. Cincinnati did the same thing. South Carolina last year played 6 in the box and really dropped everyone in pass coverage. So Georgia ran the ball. Well, this year they're doing the same thing. I mean, they're being a balanced offense when it's a balanced defensive front. But when you're going to line five guys in the box like Arkansas did, and I've got 6 offensive blockers and a ball carrier, well, yeah, guys, we're going to run the ball 56 times today. And if you're going to be so hard-headed that you're not going to stack the box and try to stop us, well, then we're just going to keep running the ball, especially when we're up 21-0. So is it going to be running back by committee? Yeah, 100%. It's going to be that the rest of the time, I believe. With the way that they recruit the running back position and the way that they keep stacking that room, next year they get Branson Robinson and Jordan James in that group is in that mix as well. Yeah, it's going to keep being this. They're going to keep handing everybody the ball off. And they even said they feed the hot hand. I don't even see that. They just rotate by series, it seems like, and even by situation as well. So, yeah, it's going to keep being running back by committee, and it's going to keep being what is the defense giving us. This is not here's what we do, respond to us. This is what are you guys doing? Let's design a game plan for that and execute accordingly.
Georgia and Auburn coming up this weekend. Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI. Our guest, Brooks, always a pleasure. We'll talk next week.
See you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Brooks Austin joining us here is Georgia and Auburn coming up. And again, huge line for that one already in Georgia's favor. We'll see where that goes. But kind of the first hostile road test. Vanderbilt's not hostile to anybody. It's probably more hostile to Vandy than it is anybody else. And you had the neutral game against Clemson. So first big road test for Georgia. We'll see how they handle it. And again, Bama, when they went to Florida, struggled. They ended up getting the win, but struggled a little bit there in the swamp. We'll see if Georgia has to, overcome some things there against Auburn. If they blow out Auburn again, on the road, neutral site, at home, we would have seen it all, every possible scenario for Georgia already.
It's gonna take an incredible game plan, Kevin, an incredible game by Mr. Bo Nix for them to even have a shot. I know the Tank Bixby in that running game will try to, but have something to say about it. But this Georgia defense, man, they don't give up anything. And I know we said it a lot. Georgia doesn't give it. They pride themselves on giving you nothing. What they saying 300? What, give them nothing but take from them everything? Well, that's kind of what Georgia does on defense right now. But I think it does get freaky when they go up to Auburn. But I don't see that being the case this year, though, Kevin, at all.
Yeah, Georgia looking really, really good after the last 2 weeks, especially 99-0 against SEC opponents in the last 2 weeks. We got more to come here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Monday. We'll get to D. Orlando Ledbetter, AJC.com coming up next hours. The Falcons losing to the football team over the weekend. So we'll get to that coming up in hour number 2. But we've got postseason baseball starting tomorrow. Ben, the Braves are in, as we well know, and good to see them finish strong. Finish the regular season. They have the top 3 guys in RBIs in the National League. Adam Duvall, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies. 1, 2, 3. I think Albies is actually tied for 3rd, but still 1, 2, 3. A number of RBI in the National League. Right there on the Braves. Of course, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley both hit over 300, I believe, or right at 300 for the season. Fantastic year. Now you get ready for the Milwaukee Brewers coming up on Friday.
Very, very impressed, Kevin, with how this Brave team finished. I know a lot of times when you got a cushion, you try to see. I mean, you try to play according to the cushion. The Braves never played prevent baseball as we do in football, as far as like prevent defense to try to secure that win. This Braves team has been very, very impressive, Kevin, and no bigger stat than Duvall, Riley, and Albies. I mean, when you think about the fact that when we think about this lineup this year, we knew it was going to be explosive, but we was thinking more Acuna, Azuna and Freeman, not Riley, Albies, and Duvall. But it just shows that, look, Alex Anthopoulos, give him a lot of credit, man. Putting together a roster, you have to know about players now and in the future. Duvall has been a guy since obviously Ozzie is Ozzie, but hey, man, shout out to them Braves, man, for getting it done. Sorry, Dodgers. No one cares.
No, well, hey, the Dodgers, 106 wins, are in a wild card game against the Cardinals. Loser goes home. So 106 wins could be walking at the end of the night there on a Wednesday. We've got more to come here. Hour 2 right around the corner. We'll take 3 next. D. Orlando Ledbetter will join us. We'll talk Falcons football in hour 2 as well, right here on 3 and Out. Welcome back, hour 2 here on this Monday. Glad you are with us. So much to get to still here on the show. If you missed any portion of the show, hit us up on our Facebook, whatever we're doing. Go to espncoastal.com and check it out. Our Spotify, our YouTube channel at ESPN Coastal. I was going to say our webpage. I couldn't get that out, Ben, for whatever reason on a Monday, but go to our webpage at ESPN Coastal and you can get a podcast version of the show each and every day. But we'll chat with Orlando Ledbetter, AJC.com coming up in just a little bit. We'll look at the Falcons and their loss to the Washington football team. Now they go cross over to England and take on the New York Jets, which brings us to take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, take 1, Ben. Which game is a bigger slap in the face to England? Hey, we're going to give you football, but we're going to give you the Jets in Atlanta. And then next week, we're going to give you Miami and Jacksonville.
Good Lord. I mean, I hate to do this to my A-Town down Falcons, man. Them boys trying to, find a way to keep things going. I think it is the Jets in Atlanta for the simple fact, Kevin, that at least Jacksonville wanted to be the London Jaguars. There are reports that say that their owner, Mr. Khan, be flying over to London and say, look, don't lose focus. We're going to find a way to be over here. We're going to be the first London professional football team in the National Football League. So now look, outside of Jacksonville and Miami, just be Miami. When you come to Miami, is a destination spot. So when you come to Miami, most of these people that have been to Miami, they associate Miami Dolphins with the city of Miami. And no, Miami Dolphins are not a good football team. And Jacksonville wants to be in London because right now with the Jets, my God, the Jets won last week against the Titans. The Falcons got beat by a team with no name. Cordell Patterson had 14 touchdowns and Atlanta still lost. So I'm going to say it will be the Jets in Atlanta because you're going to have a bunch of players that nobody knows and none of them want to be in London at the time. So give me the Jets in Atlanta, Kevin. I think I know kind of which way you're going to go with it, though.
Yeah, it's definitely the Jags and the Dolphins. I mean, look, on just the straight face, at least you have Atlanta and you have New Jersey. I know they're the New York Jets, but you have the New Jersey, New York metropolitan markets who will want to watch this game. And the Jets and Falcons have both, won a game in the National Football League this season. Then you go to next week, Miami and Jacksonville, 2 teams from the same state going to London to play a football game. One of them stinks and has made more headlines about their coach and the club than their play on the field and has not won a game. And the Miami Dolphins constantly get criticized about what are you doing? Like the people that cover the team say, we don't know who wants to be, and they are 1-3. They are bad. That is a bad football team against a team that is just bad, period, at a number of things. On the field, off the field, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. No, the bigger slap in the face is submitting the people of London to Jacksonville, Miami, and saying, this could be you. This is NFL football. Nope. Bad.
I'm just going to be counting the number of jerseys that's not going to be Atlanta, not going to be New York, not going to be Miami, and not going to be Jacksonville. Like, hey, man, where's Patrick Mahomes? Where's Tom Brady? Not coming over here. They're good teams. We need their services in the states where they belong.
At least Atlanta and the Jets have a former MVP in the game.
They do.
So
they got a bunch of a lot of other things, but yes, they do got Matty Ice. There's
at least something to sell there.
Yes, at least they'll say, "Hey, Matty Ice, you've been to the Super Bowl, right? What is it like? Where's Tom Brady? He's in the States. I'll holler at him when I get back home."
Tom Brady said, "I only go to London when my wife tells me it's time to go."
Talk about it.
And that's for a paying gig. I play football in the States. All right, take 2. What is the wildest stat that you have from the Atlanta Braves season? And there's a lot of them.
Yeah, now, Kevin, I was going to go a lot of different ways with this. I mean, the one that I was going to go with is obviously the win-loss. But, Kevin, your favorite closer in baseball is 4th. He is 4th in the majors in saves, and that will be Mr. Will Smith. And didn't you tell me, Kevin, he's 2 away from being tied for second? So, as
2 away from number 1.
So for everybody who watch Will Smith and says to myself, he is the worst. Actually, he's not. He's actually 2 away from being Now, stats-wise, it ain't much to look at, but stats-wise, he's 2 away from being the best. So, Kevin, to me, with everything I could have pulled from with Ozzie and that infield, I'm going to go with Mr. Will Smith, who's definitely going to play in the playoffs. He is 4th in the majors in saves. So, BJ, Papa B, take that for Mr. Will Smith. And listen, we talking about, and so when people say, can numbers lie? Can numbers be deceiving? Absolutely, when it comes to Mr. Will Smith.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them that are out there that are really cool. Like, the fact that Duvall, Riley, and Albies are 1, 2, 3 in the National League in RBIs, or the fact that I think you ended up with 6 guys with over maybe 7. I'll double check that 6 or 7 guys over 25 homers, and Ronald Acuna didn't play half the season. He had 24. But I think you have 6 guys in the current lineup who have hit it over 24, 25 times over the fence. That is amazing. That just doesn't happen. And you have maybe one of the best infields from an offensive production standpoint that we've ever seen in Major League Baseball, certainly with the Atlanta Braves in terms of homers, RBI. First, second, third, short combo we saw this year in Atlanta was up there. But the most amazing stat that is wild is one that we witnessed partially going in and out of the All-Star break, and that was the fact that the Braves went, 13 or 14 games in a row, winning and losing in alternating fashion. I don't even know how you do that. Like, Ben, when there's only 2 options, and those options are win or lose, how do you even make that go opposite 13 times in a row? I couldn't give you a quarter and say flip it 13 times and have it go heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails. Like, at some point, it's going to be tails twice in a row, just out of sheer dumb luck. Like, it's going to be tails twice in a row or heads twice in a row. Surely, out of just dumb luck or just the way baseball is, you're going to win 2 in a row or you're going to lose 2 in a row. But the fact that they went 2 weeks in alternating fashion is truly amazing. That doesn't happen in sports. That doesn't happen in games of chance. It doesn't happen anywhere. Like, I can't go to the roulette table and say it's going to go red, black, red, black, red, black, 13 spins in a row. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
I mean, Kevin, isn't that old adage of you're never as good as they say you are, you're never as bad as they say you are? That is the definition of steady. We're good. Listen, we win again. Hey, man, no, we lose again. Wait a minute. Listen, we're not good. We're not bad. We're lukewarm. We're not hot or cold. We're just right there in the middle. And I wouldn't try this with nobody outside of Atlanta, but for 2021, it worked for the Braves, Kevin, because it kept us talking. It kept our mind off of Will Smith and how bad we thought he was, because turns out he was pretty freaking good.
I hate to admit that, but
Kevin, you already know what jersey you getting this year for Christmas. You already know. One of the best closers in baseball. And Kevin, oh my God, if the Braves win the World Series and Will Smith is closing, Kevin gonna say, "What is going on?" Like,
he's the greatest guy ever at that point, right?
We have archived every one of these shows to go back and say, Kevin was saying, Will Smith, you are the worst. But if you can win the World Series for one night, I will forgive you until the 2022 season kicks off.
All will be forgiven if Will Smith can bring home a championship. We've got one more to get to here. Take 3. Today is National Taco Day. So, Ben, the debate, not whether tacos are delicious, I think we all know that, but the debate, hard shell or soft shell with your taco.
I'm going to go hard shell. I know it's a lot of soft shell people out there. Now, Kevin, we talked about this before the show. Now, me and you have been introduced to a more sophisticated way of soft shell tacos. Like, we kind of like fried a little bit, bubbled up. I don't know. Listen, to me, I ain't never had a soft. Mine has always been, hey, put it in the microwave for about 10 seconds, let it get, it ain't doing nothing but getting warm. It tastes the same, but it's going to warm it up. So for me, I like hard shells, want to hear that crunch. And, I want my taco kind of stacked up a little bit in my hard shell. So for me, nothing against you soft, shell. Give me the hard shell, because the soft, well, it just depends on who making them. And since I don't get them the sophisticated way anymore, give me the hard shell.
Yeah, I really like soft shell. I think that's the authentic way to eat them, if you want to be for real about it. Like, if you were to go to Mexico and order tacos, they would bring them to you in the soft shell. That's the real way to do it.
Probably. Yeah.
So, no, it's not probably. No, that is.
Well, I mean, listen, y'all don't got the hot. Is that like one of those places that you go get a hot dog and they say don't ask for ketchup because they only put mustard on it? I'm like, hey man, can I get a hard shell? Kick him out. What? Kick him out. Where you from?
Yeah, soft shells are good, but I will agree. Once I was introduced to I guess it's fried. Technically, you put the You put the soft tortilla in the vegetable oil or whatever, and you like fry
Let
it
it
up
bu-
for a couple
oh my
minutes. It's
God.
not crunchy. It's not soft, but it's something in between.
It
It's
is good. It
magical.
is good. It
It is
is
very good.
it is what and you want the one fresh out. Like you don't want the ones that been sitting there for a couple of
Yeah.
seconds. I want that. I got it, and put your stuff in there. So yeah, Kevin, because I've gone back from sophistication to regular, I will just go crunchy. Thank you very much.
Yes, we've all lost a little sophistication there with our tacos. That's take 3. We do it every day this time. We'll come back. D. Orlando Ledbetter going to join us. We'll talk about the Falcons. I know Arthur Smith said after week 1, we got to get better. Now he's saying Calvin Ridley, we just got to have more. Where is this Atlanta Falcons team as they get ready to go over to London and play the Jets this week? He'll join us next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Atlanta Falcons there against the Washington football team. Another loss as they get ready to head across to London this week. 34-30 Falcons lose to the Washington football team. And afterwards, obviously Arthur Smith saying, look, we need more out of certain guys. And joining us here, talk about that, the Orlando Ledbetter, AJC.com, covers the Atlanta Falcons. Daryl, welcome again. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the show again.
Tough way for the Falcons to lose that one. I know Taylor Heineke, kind of a miracle pass when you're up 8 late in that ball game, and then to have it go down the way it did. Where's this Falcons team, realistically, fan banter aside about how bad it's been, where's this Falcons team as they sit at 1-3 as you watch them play?
Well, they actually got a little bit better yesterday. They were able to put more of a game together. They haven't been able to play 4 quarters all year, but it's a work in progress. You know, they did come into the game as a 29th ranked offense and put up 374 yards, 4 touchdown passes. Then the defense, which had been coming along, didn't do as well yesterday. They allowed Heineke to scramble about and make some plays. And they dropped some balls that would have, put this thing away earlier, So it was a mixed bag for the Falcons right now.
How would you describe this offensive game plan, though? When you think about the fact that too, you mentioned, I mean, they played a little bit better, but does the offense have to consistently play better to kind of wait on this defense and kind of find their niche at this point?
Yeah, no doubt. I'm fine with the game plan. I know a lot of people think the coach got too conservative late in the game. I mean, you got to be able to run the ball with 3:52 left in the game. And, if you can't, I'm not real comfortable with dropping back and passing with this group either. So they get a little bit stronger and a little bit more tougher up front, maybe you do call a pass in that situation. But, good sound football moves to run the ball, run the clock out, and get out of there. So they wasn't able to do that. And so, he's open to some criticism there. But, I don't have any problems with the offense scoring 30 points. You get that every week, you should be getting a W.
The Orlando Ledbetter joining us here on 3 and Out. And Daryl, you look at this Falcons offense. Cordell Patterson was your leading rusher and leading receiver yesterday. Mike Davis, we heard a lot about Mike Davis, so he's the guy that Arthur Smith wants to be that power running back. And last couple of weeks, Wayne Gallman outperforming, Cordell Patterson outperforming. Is he still the leading running back here on this team? And are they looking at kind of making some changes to that depth chart here in the coming days?
No, he said, we asked him that today. We just talked to coaches like, hey, when are you going to have to consider moving some of the carries from Davis to Patterson or Gallman? And he said, no, Mike's running hard. He's doing a great job. It takes all 11. So he's not holding it against Davis that he's not racking up the yards. He's holding it against the line. So I don't know if he gets to put Josh Andrews back in there. He's coming back from the IR list, or does they wait until they start blocking it up better? But as of right now, he's staying with the rotation that he has back there.
I mean, Orlando, when you think about this young secondary, right? I mean, they're going to go through some growing pains. I understand that. I mean, Scary Terry, he was having his way yesterday. But how do you assess them with a very, very, even though the season's very, very young at this point?
Yeah, the whole secondary, you got Terrell, Fabian. Fabian got beat on the 33-yarder. Eric Harris and Duran, they're veterans. Isaiah's down, so now that we get to see Richie Grant in there, Avery Williams took over for Isaiah this week, and then Darren Hall, the 4th-round pick, is he was inactive, so they had T.J. Green out there when Fabian was hurt. He watched Scary Terry catch the one Hail Mary blooper pass that Heineke threw up. You got to kind of bet that one down, but. Yeah, the secondary's got to get a little bit tighter in their coverage, and and then the rushers got to stay after the guy, even when they had everything covered on the touchdown play, and then Heineke just, you never supposed to throw back across the field, but that's what he did, and found McKissick, and got a touchdown out of it. So, it's just some weird plays there too that, the secondary's got to, come up with some interceptions when they get their hands on the ball and maybe play a little bit tighter coverage.
And just one sack, I believe, again yesterday, and that's probably going to be a season-long theme. I know, Daryl, we've probably said find a pass rush almost every time you've come on the show with us, but where are they at least scheming themselves into some more sacks?
They tried and got Isaiah Oliver knocked out of the season probably. He was coming on a nickel corner blitz, and J.D. McKissick caught him real good there. They said it was a knee injury. It looked like a concussion to us in the press box, but we'll see how that comes out. But yeah, they've been trying. You've been seeing cats come off the corner, come up the middle. Grady Jarrett had a good stop on 4th down. He did a swim move and got right in the backfield. Fowler's flashing, but on some of those scrambles, he's got to get the quarterback down on the ground. So those are the only people I've been seeing come and get near the quarterback. For the Falcons is, those 4. Dion should be getting free on some blitzes. Haven't seen him there. Foyer, haven't seen him blitzing much, but he got the sack yesterday. So they got to fabricate it. And, hey, maybe they can get Jordan Davis and rent him out from the Bulldogs there to help out.
Hey, man, he would be a great addition. But, D'Orlando, Arthur Smith has already started, but I understand that when your stars or your star at the receiver position ain't really playing up to the level that you want to, already kind of calling out saying they want to get more out of Calvin Ridley. Is that more play calling, or is it just the fact that Ridley is still trying to find his footing thus far?
No, I did his numbers there. They don't look too good. He's only averaging under 10 a catch. So, that was play calling. But yesterday they forced him the ball 13 times. He dropped a couple, looked kind of a little timid running across the middle there. And, and then they knocked a couple more off of him on some passes that were a little late to him. So, the coach said he needs more from Calvin Ridley. So there's no question about it. If the coach is calling you out to the media, that, he did the same thing to Calvin's face, I'm sure. So, that he got to catch some of them balls that were, on time. And you're going to get hit sometime when you catch the ball. So he got a couple balls knocked off of him. He dropped a couple balls. He looked a little timid coming across the middle. So, no, that wasn't his best game at all. You're going to need to see a little bit more from him here down the, if this offense is going to win some games.
Daryl, this week, Falcons go over to London with the Jets. You've got a 1-win Jet team, Miami, 1 win in a couple of weeks. Should we really judge Arthur Smith on how the Falcons perform the next couple of weeks against some young head coaches and some teams that you should probably beat?
Yeah, no question about it. Same thing, but we said the same thing about the Eagles there, and they weren't ready for that. And then once Washington lost Fitzpatrick, you thought, well, okay, they're not playing too good. You should beat them too. But these next 2 should be winnable games. Maybe you can get over 500 here, get to 3-2. That would be 3-3, get it all tied up. And then, maybe be on your way, because the tougher part of the schedule is coming. And right now it doesn't look like they're going to be ready to handle that. So this team's got to get, he said it today, he said, we got to get better in a hurry. And so hopefully they can teach off of this game, and they can eliminate, the minor mistakes, the false starts, and all the stupid stuff that cost you football games, So, it's their first 4 games playing together. They didn't play in the training camp. So, kind of look at that as the exhibition season. And can they make a jump and go over to London and, hand it to the Jets and show everybody you're a really good football team? Or, we're just going to be in for this kind of up and down, back and forth type of football that we've seen over the first 4 games.
Kyle Pitts has looked better catching the football as of late. He's going to be a guy they're going to find a way to get the ball to. Still hasn't gotten the end zone yet. I mean, how do you assess him, just 4 weeks in? And are they coming up with a game plan for him when they do get in that red zone?
No, they haven't. His best route has been a crossing route over the middle where you're running them into safeties. I don't like that particular route that much for him. He did get one up the seam against the Eagles. I like to see that cover two beater some more. And in the red zone, they got stuck again down there on the first possession on the 7th. And I don't believe one ball went to him down there in that sequence. So, bring him in motion, slide him across the formation, put him in the backfield. They did throw one to him. It was a high one that was too high that he couldn't go get. So, just remember that off the top of my head. But yeah, they got to do better. They got to do better in all facets of playing football.
The Orlando Ledbetter joining us here, covers the Falcons for the AJC. And Daryl, finally, Falcons are in London this week. What is kind of your thoughts on this London game as it continues to evolve? I know, what are the players saying about it? And it seems like for all you got to do to get over there, then a week off to adjust coming back, is this still a worthwhile experiment for the National Football League to have teams giving up home games to go play in London?
Well, yeah, I certainly think it's I was covering the NBA when David Stern was making this push to expand internationally. That worked out great for them. NFL was kind of late on that international expansion, and I think taking the game to different countries and across the world is a good thing for football in general. It may not be a good thing for the Falcons this year losing their home game, but I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to spread the game internationally.
Orlando Ledbetter, our guest here on 3 and Out. Daryl, always a pleasure. We'll talk again soon. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
Will do. D. Orlando Ledbetter does it better than anybody else out there covering the Atlanta Falcons there with the AJC. Always a pleasure having him on talking Falcons. And Ben, obviously tight end position, your forte. Kyle Pitts, you said 4 weeks in, not gotten in the end zone. What do you do to remedy that?
It's going to have to be play calling, Kevin. I mean, he's a one-trick pony right now. I mean, he's built for speed. When you look at how this guy, he's built to do the things he does. But the thing about the NFL, they're going to force you to kind of get out of your comfort zone. I know that play calling is going to be essential, but you get known for running a certain route. Listen, no defense cares about giving up yards between the 20s. But with the 20-yard line in, that's how you make your money. First downs, touchdowns, and momentum swings. Right now for Kyle Pitts, he's got the first two. He's got the momentum swing and the first downs, but he got to be able to get in the zone. It's not his fault, but he was brought in to replace Julio. And right now, he's giving you production. But Julio was known for not getting in the end zone, Kevin. And right now, Kyle Pitts is living up to that moniker. Right, wrong, and different. His fault or not, got to find a way to get number 8 in the zone.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Monday. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're streaming live as well at ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We'll look at the good, the bad, the ugly from the college football weekend. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll look back on the weekend that was in the SEC, and Jake Roos going to join us, final hour of the program as well. But in many things that are interesting in college football, Ben, what is the ACC, right? Clemson was going to be a national title contender because, well, they always are. They've got 2 losses, barely squeaked by Boston College, who's been good this year, mind you, but barely got by Boston College for a win. Otherwise, they'd have 3 losses already. Wake Forest is undefeated. North Carolina has lost a couple of times already. Florida State barely just got their first win of the season already. What is the ACC?
Kevin, it's going. I don't want to call it an overhaul because the overhaul has to be over time, right? It's definitely got a facelift though. It don't look like ACC walking down the street and you like that look like it, but you look different because Kevin, you said it. Clemson offense is bad. It is bad until they show us something different. It is bad. Miami don't know. You don't know what's going on in Miami right now with them losing 30-28 to Virginia. Wake Forest, as you mentioned, is undefeated. I don't know who the real Georgia Tech is, but the team I saw 2 weeks ago, the last 2 weeks, is not the team that showed up to play Pitt. UNC beat Duke, okay. Florida State squeaked out a win against Syracuse. Cincinnati beats Notre Dame. Yes, Notre Dame is a part of the ACC because I don't want to hear it. So, Kevin, 2021, we're going to look back on this thing and say, listen, either this is what the ACC is going to be moving forward, or, Kevin, this is just an anomaly. Like, this is just an awkward year. It's bad enough that Wake Forest is the Demon Deacons. That's crazy within itself, the mascot. But, yes, Kevin, you said the ACCs itself. It is usually the teams not named Clemson, not named Miami, not named North Carolina. Well, they seem to all be doing it this year. Wake Forest don't know what to do. They don't know what to do right now being undefeated. Like, wait a minute, what? We're the only team under. So who would have ever thought that's keeping the ACC afloat is Wake Forest right now? It ain't Miami. It ain't North Carolina. It ain't Virginia Tech. It ain't. So I think, Kevin, it's a week by week. So week 4 in the ACC is a head scratcher. But I do know that DJ Uiagalelei, however you say his last name, he's saying he's still confident. Confident in what? To not score points. So, yes, Kevin, it's going to be excuse me, it's only week 4. It's going to be a long season left, Kevin. And I don't know who's going to be at Bank of America Stadium for the ACC championship game. But what I do know, it's probably going to be 2 newcomers at this point.
Well, again, there's a couple of ways to look at it. If you are a conference in transition, one, your conference isn't that good. You can look at it that way, and that obviously is the way a lot of people do. You can also look at it and say, look, we're a conference that is trying to compete, and we've got a lot of teams who are fairly equally matched to one another. That's what makes the league interesting, right? Is you don't know who's going to win. This isn't the SEC where Bama and Georgia beat people by 30 and the game's over in the first quarter, and we kind of know what we've known 3 weeks ago. Georgia and Bama are going to go play in the SEC championship game. You don't have that league where you could just chalk it up and you already know how it's going to end. You thought you did, but you're seeing teams, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, teams that are in limbo trying to figure out. So 1 week they look very good. 1 week they look pretty bad. Those are signs of teams that are trying to figure it out. Right now, the best quarterback in the league might be Kenny Pickett at Pitt, who's really playing well. So it could be very interesting. Like I said, do I know who's going to wind up in Charlotte? Nope. Would I bet money on who's going to wind up in Charlotte? Nope. Not at all. But I think we've become so accustomed to, if you don't have a team that's contending for it all, it means you have a bad league. Well, we don't say that about the SEC. What, your number 2 contender is about to lose 3 games in a row? What, your number 10 Arkansas just got blasted by 37 points and did not score as a top 10 team? Oh, well, they're playing other SEC teams. Oh, I got it. We don't say that about the SEC when they have teams that are inconsistent. SEC, ACC, Pac-12, Big Ten, they all hear that when their teams lose. Oh, the league's just not good. They have I think the ACC doesn't have a powerhouse team right now, but I think they have a middle that's trying to sort itself out. And it may not be this year, but I think they have some programs that are trying to get the corner turned. It won't be in 2021, but there's some signs that consistency down the road, they might have a couple of teams that end up being worthwhile contenders.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Kevin. We do get caught up in the dominance, right? We want a team to dominate, to be the headliner, and it's like as long as we got a dominant team, everybody else can be okay because that's what we gonna cling to. No, this is more of college football when you think about it. There is no front runner. You got to play every single game, every single week to decide. Not, hey man, they clinched that thing, week 7, week 8 of the season. No. We do it to ourselves. We come up with these narratives, right, Kevin? Okay, Clemson's going to be good. They're going to beat Georgia. They're going to run the table. They're going to lose to Georgia, and they still run the table. No. Oh, North Carolina got Sam Howell. Oh, Louisville got Malik Cunningham. Oh, Miami got Miami can go out there and do it with the Eric King. No, Kenny Pickett. Get used to that name. See, that's what football is about. It's about from the no name to the he from a no name with a big game. I give you two words. Joe Burrow. Going into his senior season, nobody thought he would become. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is going to be Joe Burrow by no means, but Kevin, I think you make a good point when you say, look, the ACC is figuring itself out. Guess who else is figuring itself out? Every other conference. You don't think the Big Ten, who's leading right now with that? Penn State, not Ohio State. Who's the best team in the Pac-12? Who knows? No one knows who the best team is. And the Big 12, look, they still got Oklahoma, Texas. Y'all have already lost to Arkansas, so y'all done. So yeah, Kevin, let the season at the end of the year, Kevin, it's going to be not an undefeated team in the ACC championship game, but whoever makes it in will have earned it, no doubt about it.
Got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll get the good, the bad, the ugly right around the corner. Also, we'll recap the weekend that was in the SEC. A lot of wild stuff happening there as well. Jake Roos will join us in the final hour. It is 3 and Out here on this Monday. Love to hear from you. 912-342-7184. You can hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Streaming also at ESPNCoastal.com. So a number of ways to get us here on the show right here on 3 and Out. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop with you here on this Monday. Ben, did want to give a shout out to Georgia Southern. Had Chad Lunsford this time last week. Chad Lunsford out of a job this time last week. They had interim coach come into place, put it together after a rough start, and they come out and beat Arkansas State 59-33. Left no doubt. You look at the way the offense came together. 540 total yards, including 500 rushing yards in that ball game. Quite the performance after a pretty emotional week there in Statesboro, where a number of players obviously very close to Chad Lunsford, and he was let go last week.
Very, very impressed with Georgia Southern, Kevin. They got back to what they do, right? They got back to running the football in a major way. Arkansas put up a bunch of points every single week, even most of the time in losing efforts. But I mean, let's face it, Georgia Southern had a lot on their mind. They do not control what goes on as far as like decision making. They just have to live with every decision made. And I give those guys a lot of credit for how they went about their business on Saturday. Arkansas State thought, hey man, we're gonna come in there with the walking wounded. Not so much. They ran the ball down Arkansas State's throat, and there wasn't much they could do. But yeah, man, I'm very, very impressed by Georgia Southern, man, with Coach Whitney, what he was able to do with a squad that that was coming in, kind of really not understanding what's going on. But they put those things to the side. They went out there and played to Kevin. If they could give this type of effort week for the rest of the season, they still dare I say they got a fighting chance, in a Sun Belt that's going to be very, very competitive.
Yeah, they got, again, a tough schedule coming up. They go from that to Troy. Troy just got beat by South Carolina, but you got Troy, South Alabama on a Thursday night, Georgia State. Obviously, Coastal Carolina is going to be tough, but you finish with Texas State, BYU coming in. There are some games out there where this team could be looking at potentially still making a bowl game. So especially if you put forth efforts like that, Ben, that's old school Georgia Southern football. 2 rushers over 150 yards in the ball game, 500 yards on the ground. That's domination at its finest.
That's old school football. That's why people do not like playing Georgia Southern. For those people that say, why do you use the type of offense? Because when it is at its best, there is nobody that want to deal with it, and you just take a bludgeon and you just want to wait on all zeros to be on that clock. So Georgia Southern just gave us a little, a little indication, Kevin, of how good they could be if they can go out there and execute. But yeah, it's not the fact that they dominate. It's a circumstance that they was under to dominate, and they still got it done.
And Ben, I know you've gone through coaching change, not in season, but it's oftentimes not uncommon if you do a coaching change in season to go out and have a great performance right after the head coach was fired. I think USC let Clay Helton go. It came out the next week and looked terrific. And it makes you sit there and go, okay, maybe it makes sense, because if this is what we can do, why haven't they been doing it? For all the season? Maybe this team was underachieving in some aspects. And it just seems that when you make that change sometime in the season, that next week, the team usually plays pretty good. And obviously Georgia Southern did that. But what is that like mid-season you struggle, coaching change, and then you come out and look as good as you have all season long?
You know that the head coach is no longer a scapegoat. They're no longer an excuse. Now it really falls on the players. As long as you got a big name head coach that has had success at a school, they're going to put it on him or her if a team doesn't come out there, execute, Kevin. But I give you a bigger name, even on their football, Nate McMillan. I mean, he took over Lloyd Pierce, couldn't get it done, and look at what he did halfway during the season. These boys were playing big time basketball. So sometimes a change at the top is necessary. You understand it's a business, but sometimes, Kevin, if you assistant coach, you are the blind spots for the head coach. You can see what he sees and what he cannot, and sometimes you just implement those things. But nothing better than a motivated football team to think that people are already counted them out.
Yeah, and again, Georgia Southern with a big win there over the weekend. Did want to give them the big credit for that, and we got some big games coming up this week in college football. Ben, I know we didn't really have it down to talk about a lot, but Urban Meyer apologizing for his actions that went viral over the weekend. And I know you said, look, as a head coach of a college team, as a head coach of an NFL team, you got to know better than to put yourself in that situation, even if we are to believe, what Urban said was like, look, I was at an event. Everybody's trying to take pictures, get me to come out there and dance. And it's like, well, that's not what we saw on the video. So your kind of reaction to what we saw there, Urban Meyer, and obviously a rookie head coach in the National Football League, now having to apologize for what we saw happening over the weekend.
Urban Meyer better be lucky he come in with a big time reputation and a lot of cachet with the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. If he was just another coach that finally got his coaching opportunity, they probably would let him go. There's nothing he's done thus far to generate any level of positivity or generate any level of energy and enthusiasm from this fan base. Now it goes every time he does something negative, they go back to everything he did thus far that wasn't good. From the strength coach, didn't go well. Tebow didn't go well, and you're 0-4. Now you're finna get ready to go to London. So he's going to need some positive publicity. Don't give me the excuse. They want to get you to dance. They want to take pictures. You're Urban Meyer. People take pictures everywhere you go, at the gas station, walking down the street. You don't think they're going to notice you at a party with people who are probably 30 years younger than you? Get out of here with that nonsense, Urban Meyer, man. Stop making waves. Stop making it about you. Hey, Kevin, I ain't never seen this, and I've seen Urban Meyer a lot. This Urban Meyer playbook right here is different. I'm used to him saying, uh-oh, team not going well. I got to move on. I'm on the dance floor. From further review, the call stands as on the field as called. He's a liar. That's what he is.
Yeah, not good, especially when you are out there on the dance floor with people whom you are not married to at the moment.
Talk about it.
There we go. Hey, we got look. Not a good look, as you said, for a coach that is 0-4 and you played on Thursday night. I'm not saying people can't have a life, can't have a good time, but you can't be put in that situation and have a team that is 0-4 and not showing a lot of signs that they're not going to be 0-17 by the time this thing is all said and done, Ben.
Kevin, if they do that, look, they won one game last year and they have yet to win a game this year, and they've already played the Texans. Think about that. Already played the Texans, don't got no wins, and the schedule's only going to get rougher, and they haven't even played Tennessee yet. You know they still can't tackle Derrick Henry. Don't be a long season for Urban Meyer. He's making the news for the wrong reasons. He better get right fast, and maybe he can get a win overseas. He sure as hell can't get one in the States.
That'll become a meme, Ben. It'll be Urban Meyer 1-0, not in America. In America, can't win a game. They do have the Dolphins. So we talked about that in take 3. They do have the Dolphins who are 1-3, so maybe an opportunity for Jacksonville to get a win. But that would be kind of funny, just in the Jacksonville way. No wins in the United States. Trevor Lawrence and company get a win in London overseas.
Mercedes Lewis, 3 touchdowns overseas, 0 touchdowns in the States. Them boys love London and Jacksonville.
Oh, man. Now I kind of hope it happens so we can talk about it here on the show at the end of the day. We've got so much to get to, the good, the bad, the ugly of the football weekend. We'll get to that coming up top of next hour. We'll look at the week that was in a wild weekend in the SEC. Apart from Georgia and Alabama dominating, I mean, Tennessee put up 62 on Missouri in a game that people thought might be back and forth. Kentucky beats Florida in Lexington for the first time in a long time. Mississippi State looking good against Texas A&M. Texas A&M is supposed to be a contender. They're staring down the barrel of 3 losses as well. So a wild weekend there in the Southeastern Conference. We'll break that down in the final hour. And Jay Cruz of Dogs HQ, part of On 3 Network, will join us in the final hour as well. This is 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at ESPN Coastal there on YouTube. Subscribe and get notifications every time we go live, whether it's 3 and Out, second down, high school football, what have you. ESPN Coastal there on YouTube. Final hour right around the corner. Final hour here on this Monday. Kevin Thomas and Ben Troop, glad you're with us. Jake Roos going to join us from Dogs HQ, part of the On3 Network. He will join us here in the final hour. Also, a look at the week that was in the SEC. But Ben, something we've had a lot of fun with here this season. Every Monday, we talk about the good, the bad, and certainly the downright ugly in the football world. Let's start with the good. What you got?
Wow, might be the great. I'm going to go Georgia defense and Alabama as a team. I think Georgia's defense is about as good as I've seen in a long time, Kevin. I got, firsthand experience going up against some Georgia boys. And a lot of times I'm not one of those people to say, oh, during my era, it was the best Georgia football. No, this Georgia defense is about as good as it gets. You haven't given up a point in 2 weeks. Have not given up a point. You almost ain't really giving up a yard either. I mean, people thought that what happened against Vanderbilt was because it was Vanderbilt. Well, Arkansas, they changed colors, but they look much the same. So I'm going to go with that Georgia's defense, Kevin, and Alabama just going right along, right? Brian Robinson gets healthy. He did nothing but go out there almost 175 yards and 4 touchdowns. So Georgia's defense is the best in the country. Alabama's team is the best in the country. So give me Georgia's defense, Alabama's entire squad, the good.
My good is going to be Kentucky, not because it was pretty. Will Levis, awful football game at quarterback, 7 of 17 for 87 yards and a pick. He was awful. Chris Rodriguez, 19 carries for nearly 100 yards. But the good for Kentucky football, they beat Florida at home in Lexington for the first time in forever, seemingly. And if you're talking about turning the corner sometimes, Ben, it's not about how you win. It's finding a way to win. And Kentucky certainly did that. They are 5-0. Obviously, you can get caught looking ahead. They know you got Georgia coming up down the road. But 5-0 for Kentucky. They've got LSU this week, Georgia in 2 weeks. And we can find out just how good this Kentucky team can possibly be. And again, I'm not saying they're going to beat Georgia, but good on them for figuring out a way to win. I think there's been Kentucky teams in the past, and you know this, Ben, we talk about it. Right there with Florida, neck and neck. You probably lose it in the last 5 minutes, and that's your ball game. Didn't do that this time. Got it done 20-13 to win. Good Florida or good Kentucky Wildcats football this past weekend. What about the bad, Ben?
The bad will be them Florida Gators and the Texas A&M Aggies. I'm gonna tell you, Florida, for everything you just said, Kevin. Florida dominated the football game against Kentucky. Dominated the yards from scrimmage. Dominated in time of possession. But you know what else they dominated? Penalties. 15 penalties for over 115 yards. A blocked field goal for a touchdown that goes against Florida, and just wasn't able to get the offense going. Texas A&M, look, talked about Jimbo Fisher, he was writing a lot of checks in the preseason, right, Kevin? That was based on the fact that you thought the Haynes King will be the entire season. Back-to-back losses now for Texas A&M. They're all out of it, in the SEC West to even go to Atlanta. Arkansas last week, Mississippi State this week. So you lost to an Arkansas team that's trying to find their footing, and a Mississippi State team that only is allowed to throw the ball. That's all they do for Mississippi State. So for me, Florida, because you couldn't find a way to get it done, and Texas A&M, look, man, you just haven't been yourself the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Texas A&M, that's my bad as well, Ben. Look, hey, you're contenders with Alabama. You're going to be the ones to make it happen. Maybe at least push them at this point in the West. At worst, you're the third best team in the SEC. Will Rogers threw the ball 59 times against the Texas A&M defense. 59. You're saying, whoa, they must have been struggling. He completed 46 of them. 46 of 59 for 408 yards against that Texas A&M defense and 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball for 30 yards against Texas A&M. They were one-dimensional, and you still got beat. Texas A&M got beat 26-22 by Mississippi State. As Ben said, they've lost 2 in a row and are staring third loss in a row in the face this weekend with Alabama. It may not be pretty given the way Alabama is playing seemingly week in and week out. But, yes, 2 in a row, looking at 3 in a row, and this was after an offseason where, as you said numerous times on the show, Jimbo Fisher out there, writing checks left and right, just like Catch Me If You Can, just checks everywhere. Unfortunately, right now, some of them checks are coming back saying, ooh, not enough funds to cash this check, and they're about to be or 3 straight losses. I do not see them beating Alabama in any way this weekend. That was the bad. What about your ugly, Ben?
My ugly is Richard Sherman haters and Tim Tebow lovers. I'm going to explain. Richard Sherman, as we know, is one of the greatest cornerbacks who ever played in the National Football League. He played receiver in college and actually got moved to cornerback when he was in the NFL. Richard Sherman I think he was valedictorian of his high school and was a cum laude in college at Stanford, being from Compton. And now he's a part of the Legion of Boom, and he played on Sunday. He flew out on Tuesday from Seattle. He practiced all week with a defense he didn't know, and he played like, I want to say 90% of the snaps on defense just last night. People are mad because Richard Sherman has a job and Tim Tebow doesn't. Let me tell y'all something. To you Tim Tebow lovers out there, I love Tim Tebow too, but for different reasons. Stop giving me Tim Tebow's resume like he's a Christian. It's a bunch of Christians out there. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. Okay, a lot of those. But guess what he can't do? He cannot play tight end. He can't do it. He was in the preseason with guys who aren't even in the NFL now, and he couldn't compete with them. So for those of you who are thinking that Tim Tebow got blackballed, you, sir, or you, ma'am, are naive. There is something wrong with you. Tim Tebow has never missed a check in his life since he's been an adult. He walked away from the NFL, whatever you want to call it, walked straight to the SEC network with his tight shirts. He is fine. Stop getting mad at a guy who was a future Hall of Famer versus a guy who just didn't pan out. So for me, the ugly is naive fans who are mad at Richard Sherman for being great at football and Tim Tebow, who is not. Leave it alone. You are sounding ridiculous, and I am sick of hearing it. Tim Tebow thinks he can play, not because he keeps himself in shape, but because of these nonsensical fans who think he's better than what he actually is. Good Lord.
Yeah, my ugly this weekend is Georgia Tech. Played Clemson close, beat North Carolina. Oh, look at this defense. Jeff Collins has got him fired up. 580 yards later against Pitt, and you got blown off the field 52-21. You go, man, that was a lot. It was 42-14 at halftime. Let me say that again. That Georgia Tech defense that, quote, looked good against Clemson and North Carolina gave up 42 in one half of football. 42 points, 580 total yards, and it could have been worse if Pat Narduzzi, I guess, was like, fellas, let's just try to get out of here. We'll try to take it easy on him. Only scored 10 in the second half and basically tried to run the game away. Unbelievable. Pitt did well, but Georgia Tech, for a team supposedly stepping in the right direction, 42 points in the first half. Truly very, very ugly by that Yellow Jackets defense. That's our good, bad, ugly. And again, we have fun doing it every week because every week somebody's going to do something awesome and somebody's not so much.
Well, Kevin, I mean, I do have a 1B for my ugly. Kevin, the unwritten rules of football got violated. The Ravens played the Broncos. Ravens beat the Broncos, but it's something that happened at the last play of the game. Everybody knows Ravens they in victory formation. You expect them to kneel down, but that's not what Lamar Jackson did. Lamar Jackson took off for about 5 or 6 yards because after the game, Harbaugh said, I wanted to keep the streak alive. What streak? Of averaging over 100 yards a game. What? Wait. You add insult in. So I got my defense, who's already not. We're not all right, gonna kneel him. He's taking off. That Denver sideline was livid. You already beat us. Teddy Bridgewater is out probably for a significant amount of time, and you trying to keep a streak alive. Guess what Lamar Jackson said after the game? I didn't really care about the streak. So I don't know what coach talking about. Like, I just ran because they told me to run. So Kevin, so basically next game, somebody's gonna come out with a football and they're gonna just throw it right in Lamar Jackson's face because they're gonna be like, what is going on? So yeah, the unwritten rules of football got violated. I do think that the streak is cool, but I think it's kind of petty, man. You want to be in the record books for what? Get out of here.
You'll be surprised, Ben. I actually don't think that's that big a deal. I mean, I get it.
I'm just saying, Kevin. I mean, at the end of the day, you know that. Just listen. Go to the last play of the game and just watch when when Lamar Jackson take off. They like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I get it. But I know of me of all people saying it's not that big a deal. But I look at it as like, look, you want to keep the streak alive. I think they needed like 4 yards or something to have the 100 yards game
Yeah,
rushing.
yeah, he got like 5 yards and slid, and
Yeah,
they like,
I mean, it's a cool thing to say. Like, we've seen much more egregious things in sports.
at least they
Quite
won,
honestly.
though. At least they won. Like the guy that one time that needed a triple double and they hadn't lost the game, and he like got his own rebound so he could get.
Yeah.
So he could get like, hey
We
man, I
both
want
sort
to
of did it. I mean, look, we've seen egregious things in the name of streaks and record breaking. I mean, Brett Favre laid down for Michael Strahan to get a sack.
Yeah.
I mean, literally just looked at him and said, "Fall down and touch me. You get the sack." I remember UConn women's basketball had a player who was set to break the all-time scoring mark for UConn women's basketball. Unfortunately, she tore her ACL. She needed like one basket or something to break the record. They trotted her out there, stood her under the basket, tipped the ball off. Everybody stood there while they threw the ball to her. She got the layup with nobody guarding her, checked her out of the game with the record, and then gave the other team a free 2 points and started the game basically over at 2-2. We've seen egregious things happen in sports all over the place. I actually don't think this is that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny because I didn't really know what was going on. And then after, Harbaugh, listen, this is one thing. Make sure that your star player understands what's going on. That way he's not contradicting what you say in the post-game press conference. Like, I don't know, when the Eagles tied and, Donovan McNabb don't know that you can tie in the NFL. Like, wait. You can tie? Yes, boy, you just did it, didn't you? No. I thought you just keep going to overtime. That's called college. So, hey, Kevin, it happened. The Ravens won. Denver lost. Denver lost their quarterback for a significant amount of time. So now you get Drew Lock, and they keep the streak alive. So there it is.
We'll see. I'm going to see if maybe they'll play again at some point and we'll see how mad everybody is about it. What's the equivalent of a fastball to the ribs in football if you can do it?
The equivalent of a fastball to the ribs of football is basically he's kneeling down, right, and the freaking nose tackle just fire off of that center, and the center just gets pushed back into the quarterback, and the quarterback like, "What's up?" Well, that's what you get for running. So something's gonna happen next game, Kevin, because the one thing men are, and I'm just speaking about me, we are petty. We are very, very petty people, and we hold grudges like nobody's business. So somebody in the back of their mind said, "I'm gonna get them for that."
Hey, we got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll look at the weekend that was a wild one in the SEC when we return here on 3 and Out. Great to be here on this Monday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us as we look back at the week that was in the SEC. Jake Roos will join us. We'll talk Georgia football coming up here in just a little bit, Ben. But you obviously start there in the SEC. Utter domination by Georgia and Alabama this weekend yet again. I know everybody looks at it, maybe you didn't catch all of it, and say, oh, Ole Miss put up 21. Nope, it was 35-0 and 42-7 before Ole Miss finally got around to scoring some more points. And obviously Georgia 37-0. That one was over in the first quarters. It was 21-0 before you kind of got settled down in your seats good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Kevin, what I do each week when it comes to these games, I mean, I try to sum it up, in one or two words, usually one word. When I saw UGA and Arkansas, Georgia and Arkansas, one word came to mind. Like you said, dominant. Georgia dominated this game from the opening ding. I mean, they didn't give up anything. I'm not giving you anything. Sam Pittman is making his return to Georgia. Nope, I don't care. You're not going to get anything with us. Deal with it. And then Kevin, you talk about Tennessee and Mizzou, right? Wow. Tennessee put up 62 points on Mizzou. 62. I don't know where that offensive juggernaut came from in Tennessee, but they unleashed a lot of frustration on the Mizzou boys. Alabama and Ole Miss, usual. Like, I don't know why people say, oh, my God, did you see what happened last year with Alabama? In this Lane Kiffin offense, the McElrath? Okay, that was last year. I mean, this thing was over. People said, but they scored 21 points. In the fourth, it was 40, I think like 42-7 in the fourth quarter. Then you got USC and Troy, that's expected. Kentucky, Florida, man, that was a stunner of the weekend. Mississippi State, Texas A&M, wow. Vanderbilt and UConn. I mean, I didn't even know UConn had a football team. So congratulations, Andy. You got it. And the thing about Auburn, LSU, epic. You watch this game, that was a game of the weekend. I know that Florida and that Kentucky did, it ended up being a stunner, but Bo Nix, and I know we talked to Brooks also earlier saying that running around wouldn't work against Georgia. Well, it worked against LSU. Auburn got a big win and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But yes, Kevin, the two dominant teams are dominant. We still don't know what's going on with these other teams like Texas A&M's and the Floridas. Tennessee unleashed some frustration. Auburn got a big dub. Mississippi State told Texas A&M, nope. If Arkansas can do it, we can do it. Because that's kind of what Mississippi State said, right? I think we better Arkansas. So if Arkansas can beat Texas A&M, let's see if we can beat them. And they did do it. So, yeah, Kevin, the SEC, real similar to the ACC, except the SEC got 2 dominant teams. Everybody else, you really don't know what the hell going on right now in the SEC.
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs, people trying to figure it out. But Ben, let's look at some of those games that were kind of off the radar. Tennessee dropped 62 on Missouri. Josh Heupel, 3-2, 1-1 in the SEC. Missouri, 0-2 in league play right now. Is Josh Heupel maybe ahead of schedule given the talent level in Tennessee, at least with that offense?
I mean, I don't know, Kevin. I mean, I think what happens sometimes, Kevin, it's a week by week type thing, right? Like we were trying to figure out who is what and like how these teams trying to go about their identity. A lot of these teams, Kevin, they don't really have an identity, right? So when you look at certain teams, you think to yourself, what is it going to be week by week? I know outside of Georgia, right, and outside of Alabama, everybody's still kind of a question mark. It really, really is. But hey, man, I give credit where credit's due. You go out there and get a big dub. I mean, I do nothing but tip my hat to you.
Yeah, again, Tennessee with a win. I think I might have had Missouri winning this game.
Kevin, we still doing it, Kevin. I tell BJ this all the time. Why can't we let go of the past? Like, why can't we let go of what happened the week before? Right? I was on the Georgia Tech bandwagon. Yeah, I jumped on it, and Pitt told me to get the hell off. No, get off this bandwagon. You don't belong here. What y'all finna do? We finna drop a 50 burger. Oh, okay. So then when you think about it, Tennessee, right, Kevin? Think about this. Tennessee's barometer is Florida. Kentucky's barometer is Florida. Florida's barometer is Georgia. You know what Tennessee tell Mizzou? No, we are not afraid of y'all. Eli Drinkwitz, we ain't afraid of y'all. And Kevin, 62 points. Tennessee basketball ain't be scoring 62, man. That was a big time dub this weekend. Very, very impressed by Heupel and company.
And certainly looking at Florida and Kentucky, though, Ben, I know a painful subject for you, but a goal line stand. Kentucky gets the win over Florida. First time they've won. And again, you talk about a team fighting for respect. Kentucky 5-0, 3-0 in the SEC. So they're almost halfway through the SEC schedule, undefeated, still not ranked going into last week. Was that a respect getter for Kentucky last week as well?
Yes, and that was an eye-opener for the rest of the SEC and the rest of the country. Kevin, I know that sometimes we get caught up in these usual suspects, right? As long as everything goes to plan, the storyline stays the same. The narrative stays the same. But what happens when you shake it up? Kentucky said, okay, we understand that we haven't beat Florida in Lexington in a long time. We're going to make Florida play ugly. We're going to go out there and get a special team touchdown. We're going to make sure that we don't get penalties. We're not going to really move the ball on offense. We're going to have more of a team game, and they come out with the win. So, Kevin, like we said, we get caught up in the how and not the that. I don't care how you win. I care that you win, and Kentucky got it. And right now, Kevin, I know before the season they were saying that maybe Kentucky can be vying for that second-best team in the SEC. Well, as of right now, they are the second-best team in the SEC until proven otherwise.
Yeah, again, that is something that's
and that's the SEC East, by the way. I don't mean to
right. And again, we'll see that play out. I think we've seen a number of teams. We talked about it with Arkansas. We talked about it now with Kentucky. They're seeing their stock rise, and it probably will be all right up until they hit the Georgias and some of those teams like that on their schedule. But right now, Kentucky passing the test. Arkansas, you kind of maybe saw that, maybe not as bad losing to Georgia, but a lot of people thought maybe they end up losing to Georgia. It's 37-0. To me, Ben, the most surprising thing that happened all weekend was Texas A&M losing to Mississippi State. Mississippi State did not play particularly well in certain aspects of the game, but they threw 50 some odd times, couldn't run the ball, and still figured out a way to beat Texas A&M. That was in College Station, and you got beat. And obviously, Jimbo Fisher, I know you got Zach Calzada, the backup quarterback, but this is a team that is slowly going down the route of Clemson, Ben. Top 5. Now they're in the top 15. Then they lose again. Now they're probably down, lower than that. And they got Alabama. They could go from top 5 to out of the top 20 in a matter of weeks. And I don't think anybody saw that coming from Jimbo Fisher's team. To me, Texas A&M, the most surprising team in a bad way at this point in the season.
Preseason expectations, Kevin, are a real thing, right? I mean, when everybody's expecting you to go out there, who's going to be – it's always who's going to be the one that kind of knock off Alabama. It was supposed to be Texas A&M. They got the recruiting. They got the players. They got the coaches. They got the resources. They got the facilities. Who cares? That stuff don't mean a hill of beans, man. You got to go out there and get it, because the one thing that people don't talk about with Texas A&M, you are replacing Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond was a great quarterback for Texas A&M. The guy had a lot of wins, a lot of big games, and replacing him was huge. When Hayne King went down, it was going to hurt that offense. So for me, Kevin, Mississippi State, give them a lot of credit, man. They're not gonna just take their ball and go home. No, dude, we're gonna win and lose our way. The air raid resides in Stark Vegas. That's where it resides at. You don't got to like it. And guess what? If you can neutralize it, it looks very, very rudimentary and simple. And if you cannot, it will give you fits for 4 quarters. So what they did, they said, look, man, we're gonna play the odds. Will Rogers, I don't know his usage rate, Kevin, but this boy can't do nothing but walk around with an ice pack on all day, every day, because he's going to throw that thing around. So I give Coach Leach a lot of credit. I mean, the 12th man didn't really do their job. Texas A&M, maybe they ain't as good as we thought. And Kevin, Texas A&M, they still ain't played LSU. They still ain't played Alabama. They still ain't played Ole Miss. It could potentially be scratching and clawing to get the 6 wins for a Texas A&M team that is more than underachieved at this point.
Yeah, and again, we ride it week to week. I get it. How low can you go? You look at what they got coming up. They got Alabama. They got at Missouri, South Carolina. They still got Auburn, Ben, Ole Miss still out there, and LSU. I mean, that you could be 0-3, 0-4 in some of those games. The only one you feel good about, I guess, at this point is Prairie View A&M in late November, and you got South Carolina in there. You feel like is a definite. Everybody else, you got to work there at Texas A&M for it to happen for you.
Yeah, and if you Texas A&M right now, man, the one thing you could have done that your in-state rivalry, didn't do. You could have beat Arkansas. Arkansas have beat the 2 biggest brands in the state of Texas. They beat Texas and Texas A&M. So I think for Jimbo Fisher, you can't. This notion of living off your previous reputation. Have you seen Florida State? They in shambles right now, even with a win against Syracuse this weekend. Jimbo Fisher can't live off who he used to be. It's who you are. And right now, you subpar. You're not as good of a coach. Jameis Winston ain't running out that locker room. You are not going undefeated. You are scratching the climb to not be the worst team in the SEC West because you've already got beat by Mississippi State and Arkansas, and those are considered the best teams in the West. You still got Ole Miss, who's going to be trying to play some revenge football. You still got LSU, still got Auburn, and there's a little team of Tuscaloosa that Jimbo Fisher wrote a check to. That check is going to come back void. It's going to bounce. Oh, my God, it's going to get up.
Yeah, it's going to be an 8:00 game coming up tonight or this weekend in College Station in Alabama. Wow. Rolling in there could get nuts. And I wonder if it's not competitive, if you see Alabama really lay it on them, if you hear some of the boo birds for Jimbo Fisher and that team, because as you said, so much of the offseason was about we're ready to step up and see if we're man enough to beat Alabama. And now you're looking at saying Missouri, South Carolina, those might be our chances to get feel-good dubs coming down the stretch here in the SEC if they don't start playing better. Really interesting stuff. We got more to come here on 3 and Out. Jake Roos will join us, Dogs HQ, on the On3 Network. He'll join us when we come back here on 3 and Out. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. Georgia absolutely dominating Arkansas 37-0 after a shutout win at Vanderbilt the week before. Another shutout win again this week. And joining us here from Dogs HQ, part of the On3 Network, Jake Roos joins us here on 3 and Out. Jake, 99-0 in SEC play in back-to-back weeks combined. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. Bulldogs on a tear right now, really just looking impressive, and I think justifying that number 2 ranking very, very strongly week in and week out. Kirby Smart and the guys, no plans to let up, but interesting to see how they move forward from here.
When you look at this offense and you think about the fact that people were trying to figure out how is it going to look, it seems more the same. They're trying to run the football more, kind of like throw the pass, throw the ball a little bit just for balance.
Yeah, I think in this offense, it's got to be, it's got to be a big focus for those guys to continue to develop both the run and the pass game. That's been a focus in each week. The rushing total has increased every week. Be interesting to see if they can do that against Auburn. But overall, I think that Georgia's created a really balanced attack, and I think that that's really benefiting them because opponents are having to account for both the rush and the pass. It's a pick your poison situation. Even with Stetson Bennett out there, I know that he probably caught some flack this week, but it's a situation for those guys where they've got the capability to do it on both ends.
Yeah, you mentioned Stetson. This game was out of control early, but that was an early talking point. JT Daniels came out for warmups, then went back in, and obviously did not play on Saturday. Where should Georgia fans be concerned about that? Because I know didn't play a whole lot against UAB, missed some time, didn't play against Vanderbilt, did not play against Arkansas. So a guy that's obviously there to be the guy to get him there to the national championship has missed parts of 3 ball games, or if not all of them here so far. And obviously it's still a challenging portion of the schedule upcoming with no real firm diagnosis on when he's going to be healthy. Yeah.
It's got to be a concern for you, I think. JT is a key part of all of this. I think, Stetson's filled in admirably, certainly, but, JT, you feel like it's that guy who can kind of take you that further step. So, I think that with this injury, unfortunately for Georgia and Georgia fans, it's just one that you have to rest. It's an opportunity where you have to take time, and there's not really anything you can do for it aside from that. You've got to let it kind of naturally heal itself and get it feeling better. So, it is a concern. I think that if you got a concern with this Georgia team right now, it's probably the health of JT Daniels. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that one moving forward.
Is Stetson Bennett good enough to take him there? Because you have to look like healthy bodies have to matter. So right now you're dealing with oblique, which is one of those injuries that's very, very tough to kind of analyze for JT Daniels. Is Stetson Bennett, even with this great defense, in a position to take Georgia back to the promised land?
That's the $1 million question, and I don't have an answer for it. I think yes. He can play like he did against UAB, but you've seen some mixed bag performances from him, and I think that has to be a big concern if you're Georgia. I think it's got to be about steadying that, keeping the run game solid, and making sure that you can enforce your will there, and then that allowing that to open up the passing game, giving Stetson the opportunities. But certainly that is a big concern, and I think it's justifiably so.
Jake, on the other side, this Georgia defense, unbelievable. I think, 23 points given up all season long, back-to-back shutouts. Do you expect them to have an off game at some point, or is this a defense that's just been so good that you think this kind of stuff is going to carry the entirety of the season?
I think there's a real possibility it can continue to carry, mostly because of the depth in this defense. You might run into an injury concern, but it's not a situation of JT Daniels and Stetson Bennett. It doesn't feel like there's some sort of fall off with the guys that are behind the starters. So, I think that an off game is something that everybody's going to run into. They'll probably have one over the course of this season, but at the same time, I think that they've shown a great deal of composure, a great deal of ability to make the play. That's nothing I'm too concerned about right now. The defense, in my opinion, the least of Georgia's worries for sure.
with the great defenses that's come through Georgia, and it's been some great ones. I mean, from the early 2000s to the mid 2000s, even now. What do you rank this defense? I know it's still early. They still got some big time matchups coming up, even starting this weekend. But where do you rank this defense? In the realm of Georgia defenses as a whole.
It's certainly trending toward being one of the best all time. If they're able to continue this trajectory, they're easily going to be able to find themselves in that category. But 5 games into the season, they may be the greatest defense ever in 5 games into the, but it's about continuing that, making sure that they're able to follow that through and put that performance on the field week in and week out. If they're able to do that, then sky's the limit, certainly. But I think to get into ranking them beyond 5 weeks is maybe putting the cart before the horse, if you will.
Jake Roos joining us here on 3 and Out, and you talk about tests. This one will be a road test. I don't know if Vanderbilt is a huge road test for anybody right now. You play Clemson at a neutral site. This is the first kind of true hostile road game environment that Georgia's going to face. How do you think they handled that? We saw Alabama go to Florida a couple of weeks ago and maybe not play their best ball game in a hostile environment. How do you think Georgia fares on an Auburn team and the Auburn fan base that's certainly going to be fired up after beating LSU in Death Valley?
Yeah, got to be a concern, no question about it. I mean, when you're talking about hostile environments, there are a few that match Jordan-Hare. So this is going to be a true test for them. I think it's about Georgia maintaining that composure that we've seen. That's something Kirby Smart and these guys have really harped on and really preached throughout this season. And I think they're more than up for it. I don't know that the crowd noise is going to be a big concern. I don't think that it's going to be an issue. I think that they're going to be up for the test, but it's definitely going to be one to watch because, like I said, Jordan-Hare, not a more hostile environment in the SEC, in my opinion.
Why are the games so crazy, up there in Auburn? I mean, you see some freaky plays and crazy type games. Is it just because the legacy of this rival, or is just when they go to Auburn, just crazy things seem to happen sometimes?
Yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint what it is. Everybody just kind of falls victim to it to some degree, but. Luckily for Georgia, they've fared pretty well. It's an interesting series in that regard because they've kind of exchanged blows, flipped it over each side. Auburn with maybe a little bit more success in Athens, Georgia with a little bit more success in Auburn. So, I think that bodes well for them. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some. we're into the Halloween month, and there do seem to be some spirits lurking around Pat Dye Field. There's no question about that.
Jake, I know in the expanded SEC, you can't keep all the traditions alive, and certainly when Oklahoma and Texas come in, and so you're going to lose some of that as well. But does this feel weird playing Auburn early in October right now? I know you've covered Georgia a while. Does this kind of seem strange to have this game on the schedule already?
Yeah, it does to me for sure. I mean, going to Georgia and kind of coming up with it being a later season matchup, I think that it is. It's very strange. But, I think that could be advantageous for Georgia. Auburn looking to get their footing back under them, really establish themselves, number 19 team in the nation, but they've got a lot of question marks. So, it feels like Georgia might catch them when they're a little bit susceptible. That would be great news for the Bulldogs, certainly.
Kirby Smart, I mean, has almost seemingly done it all, in his short career at Georgia. I mean, coming up a little bit short of the national championship, not too many years removed. But how has his poise been? I know you talk about the poise of this defense, the poise of this team. He seems to be a lot more poised, and he's never been the type of guy to look down the line and look past any opponent.
No question about that. I mean, he's a guy who is able to maintain that, and I think that you're seeing that the team take on that personality itself. I mean. Like you said, it's about poise. It's about, composure. It's about being able to, bounce back. I mean, look, we've seen Kirby be less than composed on the sideline, certainly, but, in meetings and in the room, he's a guy, he brings fire and he brings energy, but at the same time, it's all calculated. It's all with purpose. And I think that that's something that this team has really taken on as its own identity as well. Kudos to him for being able to impart that.
Jake Roos, Dogs HQ, part of the On3 Network, our guest here on 3 and Out. Jake, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And Georgia and Auburn coming up this weekend after a huge win over Arkansas. Auburn gets a huge win over LSU. And Ben, this is what when you think about SEC football, Georgia and Auburn, you think about that. Both teams want to be physical. Traditionally, both teams want to run the football. Should be a huge matchup. Obviously, 3:30, that national CBS game this weekend between those two opponents.
Auburn saw what happened to Arkansas this week. They saw all the hype, right? They saw the top 10 matchup, Kevin, and then they kicked the ball off. Much ado about nothing. Auburn understands they're going to have to play their best game, not because of the current game, but because of who they're going up against. Georgia is very, very, quickly becoming a team that nobody wants to play. You have to play them if you're on the schedule, and the only person looking forward to it is the coach. Them players like, man, let's hurry up and get the hell out of here. These dudes will beat the hell out of us, and it's only the first quarter. So I expect it to be a competitive game, Kevin, but then again, I expect every game to be competitive because I have nothing to do with the outcome of it. Bo Nix is going to have to put on one of his, his freshman year, type performances like he did in the Iron Bowl against Alabama. Because if Georgia's going to get beat, it's going to have to be on the road in a hostile environment and a team finding a way to stay in the game. And I'm talking about the opposing teams. I'm talking about the offense because I think that if Auburn can put some points on the board, which we haven't seen yet against the Georgia defense, it might end up being a better game than we give it credit for.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. It's 3 and Out. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Monday. Kevin and Ben, BJ will be back with us tomorrow on the show. MLB playoffs getting ready to start tomorrow, Ben. We know the Braves are in. They will not play until Friday against the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee. But how about this? 162 games, Ben, comes down to the Giants won 107. The Dodgers won 106. That's historically good. The Dodgers, because of that, are in the wild card, and they will play St. Louis, who won 90 games. So a team with 90 wins or potentially a team with 106 wins could be gone after just one game. I think they play that one on Wednesday. The Braves won 88. They're good. They're playing a best of 5. They're against Milwaukee. You look over in the American League, the Yankees and the Red Sox playing each other in a one-game elimination to move into the postseason. Just truly unbelievable how we saw some of those races finish up. Again, Toronto, 91 wins, didn't make the playoffs. Normally 91 wins, enough to get you there. It wasn't here for the Blue Jays in 2021, but setting up to be a truly epic MLB postseason where you have some really, really good all-time teams that could be eliminated here with one game. Red Sox, Yankees, and certainly the Dodgers with 106 wins. That is historically good to win that many games, and they could be gone if they play a bad game on Wednesday.
So the defending world champions might be out because of the Cardinals, and the evil empire has to go up against the team that it cannot stand the most in Boston Red Sox. Kevin, this is why you love baseball, right? Like, life isn't fair. I mean, the Dodgers are getting punished for being too good of a team, winning more games than anybody because they get one game to prove their worth. And does it get better, than the evil empire in Boston? I mean, I'm not a fan of either, by the way. But if I got to see somebody lose, I'd rather be them Yankees because I don't want to hear. Yes, the Yankees are good for baseball. They're just not good for my psyche. Cannot stand them. Get on my nerves. Get sick of them. They don't care about staying within the lines and the confines and spending money, Kevin. If they can give it to them, they're gonna find a way to give it to them. They got Carlos Stanton, they got Judge. I get sick of them. So Boston, do what you're supposed to do. Eliminate the evil empire because I don't want Georgia fans wearing Yankees hats for the rest of the postseason. They get on my nerves too. But let's go.
Again, I'm not big on the Yankees, so we'll see if they get it done. But a one-game playoff with the Red Sox, man, that's about all you could wish for there in that series. I do know Adam Wainwright going to start the one-game playoff for the Cardinals. So Cardinals and Dodgers out there. Braves will play on Friday against the Milwaukee Brewers. Don't know the first pitch time there yet. But Ben, you talk about just the unbelievable stats, and here's one that we can celebrate now that the season is over. The Mets, I heard this weekend. The Mets were in first place in the National League East for 103 days. That is the longest stretch a team has been in first place in Major League Baseball and then ultimately finished under 500. So they were in first place for 103 days and not only did not make the playoffs, they finished below 500 on the season and just announced today that they're not going to bring back their manager. So the overhaul has begun for the Mets team, who at one point looked like almost a shoo-in to make the MLB playoffs.
Kevin, they did what you talked about.
They practiced celebrating the World Series win in spring training.
Yeah, that's their problem. I mean, and what are they doing that for? Listen, at the end of the day, Kevin, they ran out of gas, right? I mean, baseball is a marathon. It's who can find a way to find that momentum late in the season and maintain that momentum. They were too good. Kevin, for too fast, and they wasn't able to sustain it. I'm never ever going to listen. There is no Subway Series in New York. It's the Yankees. The Mets are the little brothers. I mean, that's just how it goes. Just like in basketball, it's Brooklyn, and the Knicks are just a good franchise. That's it. I mean, I don't want to hear about it. So the Braves, they did what they're supposed to do. They caught the Mets. The Phillies couldn't catch them. Now the Braves are in. The Mets are doing a fire sale. If you want them, we got them. Come get them. We're trying to get rid of everybody. But hey, Kevin, that's what BJ says. Pitching wins. Well, we got the 4th best closer in the game. Is that a confident thing? I'm just saying. Numbers don't lie. Numbers can lie, and numbers can be very, very deceiving.
Yeah,
but shout out to
Will Smith, fourth most saves in baseball. But I do think the guys that are going to be starting the game, Charlie Morton, Max Fried, Ian Anderson, are very, very good. You feel comfortable and confident with that. I know the Brewers have a very good starting rotation as well, but the Braves, I'll put those three guys up against just about anybody right now in baseball. And again, the Braves and Brewers will play game 1 on Friday. So looking forward to seeing Major League Baseball playoffs get started. We'll have those wild card games tomorrow and Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.